white people didn't exist?
We'd be okay. We would survive with seasoned food and the sun.
Hello everybody, welcome once again to AfriPost. I believe wherever you're watching us from, you're doing great. Now in today's video, I want us to talk about something that is very critical here. There is this white guy who made a video on TikTok. He's been making quite a number of videos, but they've not got traction as this one got. Now this video, he came out and said that blacks cannot survive without white people. And therefore, many people really wondered what he was saying. So I want us to listen to this video that sparked a very serious and ugly online debate. And then the reactions that people gave, some few people that I've selected on the topic. And then later, let's react to what he's saying. Take a listen.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist? Now, some people might think of this as a joke, but this is actually a very serious question. There is nowhere on this planet an example of a self-sustaining and successful and thriving black community. I mean, let's take Africa for example. The whole world is constantly providing aid and supporting Africa from all over the world, from America, from Europe, from Russia, from China. All these major self-sustaining countries are constantly providing aid and helping Africa survive. Same thing here in America. We have all these programs like Section 8 housing, welfare, food stamps that help out the black community. So it is a real question. How would black people survive and self-sustain if white people did not exist?
It's so sad that people have to come on the internet and say a whole bunch of incendiary things, spew a bunch of racism just to get likes and clout on the internet. Wasn't it enslaved Africans who created the wealth for the South here in the United States of America? So really, that statement would be backwards if we looked at history and actual facts. It was white people depending on black people for their economy.
There is nowhere on this planet an example of a self-sustaining and successful and thriving black community.
Well, here's an example for you of a thriving black community who was doing amazing until white people got in their feels that there was a thriving black community with its own economy doing well. The neighborhood of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma was so thriving with black excellence, it was called Black Wall Street. And in 24 hours, because of racism, white people destroyed Greenwood, literally causing so much damage to the black community that it forever altered black family trees in this country. Rosewood is just another example off the top of my head of black excellence where they were thriving and had their own community that was destroyed by racist white people.
Take Africa for example. The whole world is constantly providing aid and supporting Africa.
Let's take Africa, for instance, and how resource-rich Africa is. But because of colonization and the effects that these countries, to this day, stealing the resources away from Africa, many Africans and African nations haven't been able to build up an economy on the resources that are rightly theirs. Yeah, the reason why a lot of people are having to come to Africa's aid is because a lot of those people coming to Africa's aid are draining Africa of its resources and its ability to make money. It is so abhorrent to me that people nowadays feel so entitled to get on the internet and spew a bunch of hatred to a community because you are uneducated and have no idea what you're talking about. Google is free. All of your points could have literally been solved for you and your racism if you just Googled. Let's do better, babes.
I think
real quick, this video response is not to him or really towards his community as a whole. I don't care about him. I don't censor them. I don't even engage with them outside of a work or academic setting, so it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I do not want any young black people to see that video, whether you are American, Caribbean, African, European, wherever you are from. I don't ever want you to see content like that as a young black person or a young black body and not know your history and think that things like this are true. If no one told you, I'm here to tell you today. The reason why today we do not have any thriving and successful communities underneath our own 2 feet is because at every turn, at every opportunity for us to rebuild, at every opportunity for us to break away, they have burned us down, they have stabbed us in the back, they have sabotaged us on purpose. The answer to the question is sitting right there in the video. The reason why none of them are still standing, none of the thriving communities, is because right now they under lakes. Our ancestors are underwater. They've been pillaged by fire. There's been points in American history where our own government sanctioned violence, bombs being dropped out of the sky on inner cities right here in the United States of America. That is why we do not have thriving communities. Not because we're not capable, not because we don't come from royalty, not because we're not kings and queens, not because we're not competitive, not because if given the same opportunities, the same rights, the same fairness, the same equity as every other community, we probably lap everybody 38 times. There's a reason behind their madness. There's a reason for racism. There's a reason why they keep us underneath their thumbs and their foots on our necks, because if they let go of us for even a second too long, the power we possess will overpower everything that they've ever done. Everything from the jewels on that woman's head before she died to the very inventions that you use every day in your everyday life have probably come from a black body. I want y'all to know y'all history, and I want y'all to know y'all power, because you come from somewhere and you are somebody. Even more so, I implore these younger generations coming up, I want y'all to read. I want y'all to read as much as you possibly can. I want y'all to attain as much knowledge and information to empower yourselves as you possibly can, because the further we move away from the things we learn from these people, the closer we'll be to the true and absolute God. The closer we will be to freedom and liberation for our people. The sooner we stop trying to be in proximity and assimilate to whatever they got going on, and remember and return to the roots of who we really are as a people, the sooner that all this hell, turmoil, and strife will stop. Because I guarantee you the hoods right here in America and the hoods overseas on the continent of Africa look real fucking similar right now.
Sustain if white people did not exist.
Troglodyte male monkey and winter. Is this you? Yeah. You all really think you all be on to something, don't you? Let's get it.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
The same way we did prior to the age of exploration and colonization that saved your ancestors, with Nubian empires such as the Kingdom of Kush, in ancient civilizations like the land of Punt that the Egyptians referred to as the land of the gods. Oh, the Egyptians are not even on this list. Let's get it. With city-states like Carthage that were the North African hub of commercial activity and flourished for over 500 years. That would be longer than the United States has been in existence. The great Ethiopian kingdom of Axiom, while Rome was rising and falling, its influence was spreading throughout Africa from a base in Ethiopia. And without white people, the Mali Empire got along just fine through Western Africa with its crown jewel of Timbuktu, an educational center that it took Europe hundreds of years to even catch up with. Oh, and let's not forget the Songhai Empire of West Africa that encompassed more area and territory than all of Western Europe combined. And my personal favorite, the Great Zimbabwe, that rivaled anything Europe had to offer in 1100 CE. It was a trading mecca. Goods and services were traded there from all over Africa, and also included trade with India, China, and the Arabian Empire. Now, you were saying something else.
There is nowhere on this planet an example of a self-sustaining and successful and thriving black community. I mean, let's take Africa for example. The whole world is constantly providing aid and supporting Africa from all over the world, from America, from Europe, from Russia, from China. All these major self-sustaining countries are constantly providing aid and helping Africa survive.
What you reference is not aid. It's capitalistic colonization, because European colonialism is alive and well in Africa today. And America, Russia, China, all of them are jumping on the bandwagon. Why, you may ask? Because Africa, by far, contains the most mineral wealth of any continent on this planet. Oil, copper, gold, diamonds, all the precious metals are found in Africa, as well as timber. That is why all of these nations you mentioned want to get a foothold in colonizing Africa today. It is not Africa who needs Europe. It's Europe and America who needs Africa. Now continue with some more of your delusions.
Same thing here in America. We have all these programs like Section 8 housing, welfare, food stamps that help out the black community.
Section 8. Let's make this quick, because your stupid ass could have just Googled this. But about half, 49%, of projected base Section 8 recipients are white. About a third, 33%, are black, and 13% are Hispanic. That's Section 8. Moving right along. Next. Welfare. Something else you could have just Googled. You would have discovered that 75.2% of the welfare paid in 2020 went to retired workers and dependents accounts. And you would also discover that 36.5% of welfare recipients are white, while 25.8% are black.
Nowhere on this planet an example of a self-sustaining and successful and thriving black community.
There have been many examples in this country alone of self-sustaining, thriving black communities, but your ancestors could not stand to see them prosper and thrive. That's why you continually burned them down. Communities like Colfax, Louisiana in 1873. Communities like Wilmington, North Carolina, where the first coup in this country actually took place when racist supremacists couldn't stand to see elected black officials in power and ran them out of town and destroyed or took all their property. And let's not forget what happened in 1906 in Atlanta, when white people were threatened by the upward mobility of the black community in Atlanta, and all of a sudden 4 random white women accused some unknown random black men of raping them, therefore kicking off a 1906 massacre in Atlanta. And probably the bloodiest moment in American history when it came to racial massacres occurred in Elaine, Arkansas in 1919, where the black population outnumbered the white population by 10 to 1, thriving 10 to 1. And when that thriving black community in Elaine, Arkansas got together and decided to demand justice with their economic might, what happened? Oh yeah, that's right. White people showed up and massacred them. Yeah, and let's not forget Rosewood, 1923, a thriving black community that Fannie Taylor decided to destroy by saying that she was raped by a black man. And who did they go get first? The local blacksmith. And before killing him, they made sure to torture and mutilate him and hung him from a tree and proceeded to start to burn down a thriving black community. Listen here, you poster child for why your uncle should have had a better pull-out game on his sister. Black people don't need you all. We did not create the transatlantic slave trade because we needed you. You created it because you needed us. And we will be fine if you cease to exist tomorrow. And I said what I said.
Black.
Let me get this clear. You want to see an example of a self-sustaining, successful black town. Did you want it to still be here, or did you want the ones that were destroyed by the white folk who were jealous? Why don't you go stand in Central Park and then look at the history of Central Park? Why don't you go fishing at Lake Lanier and then look at the history of Lake Lanier? Because under those are the black towns that were striving, self-sufficient without the white folk.
The real question, the actual question, you absolute racist fool is how would white people survive without black people? For centuries, white nations, white empires have been colonizing African nations and raping them, extracting everything they possibly can, from minerals to oil to food, everything. That's number one. Oh, those nations aren't providing aid. They're taking everything they can from African nations. Number two, the United States would not be here as an economy if it wasn't for the slave trade. So just shut up.
Now, after listening to that comment and then the reactions that he gets, what is your stand on this? Do you really think black people cannot survive without white people? Because for me, I think it's the other way around. I believe blacks have made it easier for people to exist globally, especially even coming from where they were brought from in Africa. Because let's ask some question here. Most natural resources that are used to make life easier, where are they coming from? They are coming from Africa. The mobile phone that you are having, you could be using it in watching even this video. Do you know that coltan, a very rare mineral element that is used in manufacturing these mobile phones, comes from DRC Congo in Africa? You cannot get it anywhere else. Most of ornaments like diamonds, gold, they come from Africa. How is it that somebody can come and say that blacks cannot survive without white people existing? If anything, I believe that most whites have brought a lot of suffering to Africans. Look at the tests and experiments that have been done. Remember the kind of vaccines that are being brought to African continent to test, where Africans are used as guinea pigs for experiments. So for me, I believe that this guy is totally off. And I don't think he's even serious, because does he really want this message to come through, or his own intention is to really just spark an online debate and have some engagement and discussions around everything that is going on? Because there is no possibility. And even if he were to be fair, he was supposed to say that blacks and whites, for them to really live and have a better life, he could have said that blacks and whites are supposed to live in a mutual relationship where both races enjoy without disregard of the other person. You know, these are some of the comments that have been very evident when you look at the white privilege within the United States. Yes, the question of white privilege is really something that must be talked about here, because where does it talk from? What moral high ground does he have to come and talk to us, telling us that blacks cannot survive without whites, that whites are superior, that whites are supposed to have some better lifestyle than the blacks? This is something that should not be tolerated. And that is why I'm saying, if he was supposed to be fair, he would have said that let all blacks and whites live together, coexist in a way that they are mutually symbiotic and that they can work together to have a better life together. I don't know what you think on your end. Let's discuss this down in the comment section. Please, if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to hit that subscription button, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and let's meet in our next video. Goodbye.